Veterans and service members receive a benefit from the VA after separation and even during active service. This benefit saves veterans hundreds of millions of dollars every year, but less than 30% of the eligible population actually use this benefit. It's called the VA home loan. The VA home loan is a guarantee backed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA home loan allows qualifying veterans and active duty service members to purchase their home with no down payment and no mortgage insurance. This saves veterans tens of thousands of dollars out of their pockets and hundreds of dollars every single month. And in this video, I'm going to walk through the 5 steps that I've personally used and that I've recommended to my VA home buying clients to prepare and successfully close on their VA home loan purchase. The first step is going to be requesting or downloading your Certificate of Eligibility, or also known as the COE. To download or request the Certificate of Eligibility, there are a couple of ways you can do it. The quickest way would be to a VA home loan approved mortgage lender, and they can request or download your Certificate of Eligibility for you. Another way would be going to the va.gov website to Housing and Assistance and finding the Certificate of Eligibility tab, filling out the form, and then within a couple of days, the VA will issue your Certificate of Eligibility. Once you have your Certificate of Eligibility from the va.gov website, the next thing you're going to want to do is speak to a VA home loan approved mortgage lender. Now, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Most mortgage lenders are going to be approved to do the VA home loan, but that does not mean that they know how to use the VA home loan to its fullest potential or that they know how to make the VA home loan work in your best favor. So typically, a mortgage lender is going to request your most recent bank statements, your most recent tax return, and a copy of your driver's license. That's typically enough information to get a home buyer conditionally approved. So you have your COE, you've taken your COE to your mortgage lender, and your mortgage lender has conditionally approved you to buy a house. The next thing you're going to want to do for step 3 is find a real estate broker that is very familiar with the VA home loan. And just like a mortgage broker is going to be VA approved or VA home loan approved, most real estate brokers are going to tell you that they know all about the VA home loan. But working with a real estate broker that's familiar with the VA home loan or has even used them before or helped their clients use the VA home loan is going to understand property conditions or some of the VA home loan requirements or things to expect on the VA home loan appraisal. It's going to make the transaction much easier. So you have your COE, your mortgage lender has approved you. Now you're working with a real estate broker that is familiar with the VA home loan. What your real estate broker is going to do is, if they know what they're doing, they're going to do a home buying consultation and they're going to discuss your goals for your home purchase. And they're going to go over some of the disclosures and the agreements that need to be in place and review maybe what a offer to purchase contract looks like and a buyer agency agreement and discuss the touring processes and the steps and what to expect. So if your real estate broker is not doing these things with you on the front end, that is a serious red flag and I would run. But now that you're approved and you have a real estate broker, step 4, you're going to begin actually touring properties and submitting offers. This is where it's very important that you're working with a real estate broker that's familiar with the VA home loan. Because even before touring, they're going to be able to tell you whether or not this property is going to pass the inspection, meaning whether or not you're eligible to purchase that property before they even get there. So again, working with a real estate broker that's familiar with the VA home loan is very important. And then you'll be going to eventually be submitting offers. So again, as long as your real estate broker on the front end discussed the offer to purchase contract and what it looks like. I know the North Carolina offer to purchase contract's like 17 pages long. So it's a lot of information. And when you as the buyer are looking at this property, you're considering going back and forth and you don't know if you want to submit an offer, you really like the house, reading these 17 pages is going to be a lot. So you need to make sure that before you even tour a property, review this contract and understand what you're signing. If your real estate agent is not doing this, ask them beforehand to go over the contract with you and kind of explain it to you. So eventually, sometimes it happens faster. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but you will have an offer accepted and you'll go under contract, which will bring you into step 5, which will be the due diligence and the settlement, also known as inspections and closing. At this point is when your real estate broker is going to start sending off contracts to closing attorneys and mortgage lenders. You're going to hire a home inspector to come in and do a thorough inspection of the property, putting a lot of emphasis on those 5 major components of the roof, electrical, plumbing, foundation, HVAC. Those are usually the big expensive things there. Also, your lender is going to order your appraisal for the property so that you can determine what the property's value is. That's a big, important portion there. So the VA home loan appraisal is required for a VA home loan to be funded. So this is where you're going to find out what the appraised value of the property is. So the appraiser is going to come to the property, assess the property's condition, and determine a current market value for that property. So this is where the VA home loan no down payment portion comes in. So 100% of the appraised value. The appraiser is going to determine that value. That's the number that the bank is going to give you. Also, again, if you're working with a very good real estate broker, before you're submitting offers on properties, your real estate broker should conduct a comparative market analysis where they're taking this property and trying to find its current value. And again, if they're familiar with the area, if they've been doing this for a little bit, they're probably pretty close. They probably know what the property is going to appraise for, but that is not always the case. So once the inspections come back, the appraisal comes back, sometimes there is a renegotiation. Sometimes the VA appraisal comes back and it's conditional upon repairs. So that means that this is the value of the property, but only if these specific things are addressed. And sometimes it can be termite damage, or sometimes it can be vinyl siding wind damage. A good rule of thumb that I go by is if it's in the property and needs to function the way it's intended. So an example, we had a stove in one of our properties. My client was under contract and the stove did not work. So we just took the whole stove out of the property for the appraisal and it passed. So if it's on the property, it does need to work. That's a good rule of thumb. So during the due diligence period is when you're going to do your home inspections, your appraisal, and then renegotiate based off those findings. And here's an example of a client I have under contract right now in Wake Forest at this property. We've renegotiated based off the findings of the roof's current condition and some yard slopage problems. We negotiated the seller to actually pay $17,000 towards my buyer's closing costs. So we had so much that the buyer couldn't even use all those credits towards her down payment. So we had to find repairs to make on this property. Since we're on this topic, the VA allows up to 4% of the purchase price of the property to go towards a buyer's out-of-pocket expense. So just as a quick example, if you're purchasing a property for $100,000, you can request, and the VA will approve, for you to have $4,000 paid by the seller for your out-of-pocket expense. Again, it's going to determine whether or not your real estate broker is familiar with negotiating these types of contracts. Again, make sure you pick the right real estate broker and real estate mortgage lender that knows these systems. So hopefully you have a real estate broker like me who's negotiating you $17,000 in seller paid concessions towards your out-of-pocket expense. That'd be sick. But after the due diligence period, you're going to go into this closing and settlement. So what this is going to look like is your mortgage lender is going to send over some documents for you to review a couple of days before closing. It's going to show where all the money for the transaction is going from both the buyer and the seller's side. Then on settlement day, the buyer, and again, your real estate broker should typically show up to your closing. You're going to come in, make sure you bring your driver's license. And if you're working with me, you probably don't need to bring a check because we're negotiating so much seller paid concessions right now. But make sure you have your driver's license and a cashier's check for your closing costs. You're going to sign about 792 different papers. You're going to have carpal tunnel by the time you're done. But after you're done signing, if you're in North Carolina, the closing attorney is going to take the documents, send them to the recording office at the county level. The property is officially yours once it's recorded at the county. So last tip I have for you here, I've seen it happen before. Do not plan to move in on closing day. Especially if you are leaving your apartment. You don't want to end your lease on your closing day because sometimes issues happen at the county level. Issues happen at the lender level. Issues happen at all levels of the transaction, and sometimes they need to be pushed right. So do not plan on moving into that property the day of settlement. That's a good tip. For my VA home buyers, I hope this video was helpful. These are the 5 steps that I've taken, that I recommend my clients take, and that I recommend you probably take to successfully use your VA home loan. Hey, by the way, if you've watched the video this far, my name's Dylan Sievering. For the last 3 years, I've been a full-time North Carolina real estate broker. In that same timeline, me and my family have used our VA home loans to purchase several $1,000,000 in VA home loan real estate. And recently I've decided to direct my business specifically on helping veterans and service members navigate the VA home buying process. And the best way I could think of to start this off on the right foot is that I'm going to pay for VA home buyers closing costs. Instead of taking a commission as a real estate agent, I'll be using these closing costs to credit your out-of-pocket expense. So if you or anyone you know is planning on using the VA home loan this year, send this video to them, tag them in the comments, like this, share this, and subscribe for more VA home loan tips and guidance.